Is there anything more effective for overcoming these 2020 blues than Homestar Runner? Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, either you're Generation Z or someone who's been completely robbed of their childhood. See, that's because Homestar Runner may be one of the most significant online shows to ever grace this once Flash animated universe. But unlike today, with many a major studio clasping its dirty hands on seemingly every major artistic endeavor, this is the story of how two brothers with little to no resources created a show so renowned and quoted, it helped shape an entire generation on the interwebs.
Oh, I'm some stupid turkey, as stupid as they come.
Not impressed yet? Okay. Far ahead of the game, 20 years later, Homestar Runner has captivated millions of eyes. And while it's a rarity to have such a relatable show last for maybe more than a few seasons, on the old medium that we call television, many long-running pastimes seem to have lost their luster. But how is it that for nearly 2 decades, one Flash animation had fans coming back time and time again? Though, what if I told you in the beginning this wasn't so much a calculated plan as much as a gigantic happy accident? Now, to cover every little detail surrounding what made Homestar the phenomenon it is today in one video is a hefty endeavor. So for the sake of sanity of both you and me, this is going to be the beginning of a mini-series on the subject. In this story, it's all about the creators.
Not really at all, I guess, at this point.
Does anybody here know about it?
See, in a time before the YouTubes, the Flash, or even the internet as we know it today, growing up in Indiana with a love of comics and a passion for filming Super 8 movies, these brothers Chaps, Mike and Matt, developed quite the creative thumb.
Glass Jones!
However, little did they know that in due time, this love for creation would spawn a whole new world to explore. Honestly, it's hard to imagine a world without Homestar Runner. At the time, it shaped so many facets of many a person's life. The culture, the humor, and the sensibilities of the internet as we know them today.
Broken glass, broken glass, broken glass, broken glass.
And although our precious Generation Z couldn't imagine it, here in the old days of the long, long ago, there was not a glut of memes or web content users, and to find something so universal on the web at this time 20 years ago was astounding. Kids liked Homestar, high school kids shared it, college kids wanted to emulate it. Hell, even parents got a kick out of the show. Everybody loved Homestar Runner. I mean, he's a terrific athlete, but I'm getting way ahead of myself. It was in the tail end of one Olympic summer last century that two siblings, Mike and Matt Chapman, with friend Craig, were about to begin their path into lands formerly unknown. This journey, though not beginning on the internet, rather in your local bookstore. Now, if you're a fan, you may know the lore, but its significance paramount to our hero's story. It was while browsing the children's section, don't ask me why, when a shocking realization came to mind. All of these books suck. And like a light switch, inspiration presented itself. They thought, hey, let's make one of these.
Well, the Homestar was created out of boredom in August of 1996.
Bored but efficient. Within 2 hours of their initial spark, they had developed not only the character we'd come to know as Homestar Runner, but also Pom Pom, the Cheat, and Strong Bad, all who later would shape one of their most unforgettable series. By the end of the day, this holy grail of children's content had been written in its entirety, and there was much rejoicing. Now look, to give you a glimpse at how impressive that is, I'm on day 5 of writing this script, and I'm not even done. I'm just winging it at this point.
Oh my god.
The book's story was simple, following the quest of the champion young athlete Homestar Runner as he attempted to carry the most grapes yes, drapes, in order to win the strongest man competition. Okay, but why Homestar Runner? Well, as the story goes, in the year prior, the whole thing came about when one friend's poor attempt at mimicking a local Atlanta grocery ad turned into another poorly made joke on one Atlanta Braves player. Then a joke, now legend. Fast forward to one long day in a brother's apartment. The air was humid, the sweat was thick. The book, which was only created really to pass the time. Meanwhile, their father, so impressed, he decided to secretly peddle this project to over 80 publishers. All of them rejected it, so their loss. But it begs the question, had this secret endeavor been accomplished? Would they have ever created the online series we know today at all? Slowly slipping into the past, this children's novel, now only a recent memory, but always in the back of their minds. It was over the next few years that the brothers Chap began experimenting with Super NES video games and Mario Paint to create their own animations. And with the turn of the century, a new art form had piqued their interest. A certain kind of animation of the Flash variety. And that's where our story really takes off. A form of art now firmly in its digital grave, at this time Flash animation was the new kid on the technological block. And while look, you can get a whole degree in digital animation, these two brothers decided to take a different route.
That's another thing. We were totally self-taught animators and illustrators. I was a photography major at University of Georgia, and Matt went to film school.
Self-taught, powered by passion. They believed in this project so much, Mike dropped out of grad school for it. Imagine telling your parents that. Dad, I'm dropping out of school to pursue my doodles. Nope. Now luckily, his parental units were much more supportive than most. The Chapmans, a support system that without Mike and Matt surely would have failed. And you see, this decision to ditch the normal route was critical. Well, today having a digital pursuit may be more mainstream. We have to remember that at this time, the internet was not nearly as populated as it is today. If you weren't an established business, maybe making banner ads or something, hardly anyone was on it. And a digital career, making cartoons online, practically unheard of. Looking back, a massive undertaking, but to them, it was just two guys pursuing a dream.
It's me and my brother making cartoons for the internet in our apartment. We haven't jumped the shark.
Only one problem. In order to produce videos, they needed a place to put them.
Welcome to HomestarRunner.net. It's .com. Oh, wait. HomestarRunner.net. It's .com.
And then the website started in January of 2000 out of boredom as well.
Without much plan or forethought, rather out of random creativity and the gutsy decisions of college dropouts, the Homestar Runner found its way from page to screen. Cartooning the book was the easy part. Capturing the feel that we would all soon come to know and love, that was a work in progress.
It's about time you guys, came to the house here, put me on TV.
The voice acting was something else.
My luscious abs have been here waiting for you and the ladies.
Make his voice, and it was supposed to sound like this little Japanese girl, and so his mail, when he got mail, I'd go it's best mail for you.
In a time when Trey Parker and Matt Stone had been perfecting their own comedic cartoon, and people like Rooster Teeth were still in its infancy, Homestar Runner was in a league of its own. With Mike busting his butt behind the computer, and Matt whipping up some unforgettable moments in voiceover, the method to their madness, a bit of an industry secret.
I have to employ a little of this strategy.
I'm so hungry! I want a lot of food!
Now, starting off, the website was really only a place to hold some of their practice animations. But as time went on, they wanted to get more intimate, spawning the introduction of some digital shorts featuring Strong Bad as the antagonist, always in competition with our hero, Homestar Runner.
Can't take it anymore! Hello, and welcome to I'm a Big Moron Who Can't Remember His Lines.com.
One thing would eventually set this cartoon far apart from the rest: their collective knowledge. Now, we had the collective knowledge of 4 other siblings, like pop culture knowledge including the 60s and 70s, so from early on, we had stuff.
Oh, you get the baby eating the marshmallow.
Though then again, there was a roadblock. These early videos didn't capture the viewer, an issue that would soon be solved with another experiment. Throughout the show's run, it has always had a unique aesthetic to its animation, but it too has evolved. A topic that truly deserves another video in its entirety: their animation and exercise in simplicity. But that was just part of the appeal. When it comes to the bare bones of Homestar Runner, there are a few things that we can cherry pick about their style. For one, Matt points out early on that he wanted to emulate something along the lines of early Cartoon Network, eking some inspiration from early shows like Dexter's Laboratory or the Powerpuff Girls. Looking back, it doesn't take much more to see the churning pot of mixed mediums that were all brought to a boil in this amazing stew of art. And when it comes to their cast of characters, many of them were inspired from things from their upbringing, but we'll get into that later. With a simplistic style, purposefully low quality, and childish vocal deliveries that gave the show its charm, these boys had just clenched their butt cheeks and created a diamond in the rough. Okay, so you got the voices, you got the art, but you're still missing one key to this nostalgic puzzle: the music. The music. Dylan, it's your part.
Yep, that's right, crap. So, as Raga has shown us, this is a very special case of the right kind of people coming into their own as creators at just the right time in internet history. We have a sprawling series packed with all sorts of characters, pop culture references that span decades, and a defined look and feel. I look at just how polished yet simple the whole thing turned out, and right away I think of someone like Jim Henson, who milked hundreds of voices, situations, and personalities out of just a handful of people, and churned out work that was instantly recognizable and timeless. What makes Homestar Runner so unique, though, is the humbler, homespun quality of its aesthetics and vibe. The animation is limited yet expressive, there's a tasty blend of retro design sensibilities, and of course there's the soundtrack, which more often than not is comprised of vintage Casio keyboards and a bit of GarageBand charm. Not this GarageBand, but like that GarageBand, like the idea of a GarageBand. Although, I'm pretty sure they also used garage. Music of the site is every bit as expansive as the visual world the brothers Chaps created. So much so that there's 3 freaking volumes of loops, jingles, and songs that can be listened to on Spotify, if you look up Strong Bad. A lot of my nostalgia for the series is rooted in the very distinct lo-fi sounds they laid under their cartoons, and that's without even mentioning the more ambitious musical projects they've made that have seeped their way into the wider realms of modern pop culture. And this was no doubt inspired by the music they listened to throughout their own lives. We plan on delving deeper into this part of the Homestar universe down the line, but until then, I highly suggest scoping out their Spotify albums or just paying closer attention to the music choices when you're going through their YouTube channel. Back to you, Rye. Rye guy? Rye sauce?
Alright, Dylan, yes, we get it. Now that we have this digital puzzle assembled, it was time to go off to the races. This brotherly collaboration sure to be a winner. Some call it luck, others call it fate, but in truth, every piece of this story stems from the pure goofy aspiration of 2 guys with no clue what they were getting into.
We weren't really set out to be an internet whatever, you know, cartoon or phenomenon or whatever.
Oh, but an internet whatever they would be. See, for them, this was just fun and games, but soon it would become something much more. A business. It wasn't always smooth sailing. You know, life has a way of throwing you some curveballs. A pitch that can be, you know, a little hard to catch when you're a pair of long legs and, no arms.
Runner is in his name. It's like, well, what does this guy need his arms for? He's wrong. It's in his name. You know what he does.
Back before many a social media app, there was no Twitter, no Facebook, no real good place to spread the word or complain, for that matter. So by 2001, the site was growing rather sluggishly. Primarily through word of mouth, you know, selling a few t-shirts here and there. They were living the dream, but they weren't making a living at it. As starving artists, their dad as their trustworthy accountant, hopes were high, but results were poor.
Homestar Runner jumped the shark, and I was like, it's me and my brother making cartoons for the internet in our apartment. We haven't jumped the shark.
That's a bit of a pickle. So why not pack your bags, throw it all in the back of your 1999 Civic, and head on down to the Big Apple, New York, New York. And it was here that they would create possibly their most recognizable series. An experiment with one edgy character and his emails.
Dear Strong Bad, do you take your wrestling mask and boxing gloves off before you go to bed? Sincerely, Abdi LaRue, San Diego, California. Well, that's a stupid question, Abdi. Do you take off your face and hands before you go to
A
bed?
simple plot for a simple character. Someone not afraid to share exactly what's on their mind.
I love you. For God, just look for God. I'm sorry to say it, but the feeling's not mutual. Mainly because of your long freaking name.
The best part, these were real fan emails. Funnily enough, this initially was created as easy filler content in between larger animation. But just like the name of their series, ultimately it was this happy accident that would boost them to fame. These videos, coupled with the Easter eggs placed at the end of a lot of them, really contributed to the overall interactivity of their site, something that I think is very important to mention. From boredom to passion, this is where everything was about to change.
Very nice. Now, what's your workday like? What is it like being you guys? Do you wake up and, put on like a smoking jacket and then hang out with like Playboy models, or?
I've got a brown terry cloth robe.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
With no ads, no marketing, and no signs of slowing down. While other comparable self-made upstarts would easily have sold out by this point, for Mike and Matt, that idea never really came to mind. In fact, there never really was a business plan, fully funded entirely by merch. The fact that Matt and Mike didn't pursue other revenue streams not only goes to show just how much they were doing this as a passion, but also that they didn't want to shove things down the fans' throats. A decision that's honorable, but maybe would come to bite them later on. And over the next few years, the Chapmans' newfound fame would quickly lead their original Homestar site to outgrow its web hosting britches. Now in their big boy pants, once they started slacking off and getting angry emails about why they haven't uploaded, that's when they knew they had made it. That's a cool feeling to know you're as important as a cup of coffee in the morning. And while it was the content that drew the masses, it was this Flash site's interactivity that made fans want to stick around. Unlike the current online landscape, these Flash sites allowed users to click around endlessly and still discover new things while rediscovering old favorites. It was this interactivity that kept the site so fresh for so long. The Flash sites of yore really made you feel like they were a place to go and not just a tool to be used. It helped shape the idea of what the internet could be and created one tight-knit community. As one recent fan told me, Homestar Runner was a shining example of how creators used to interact with their audience. 2002 to 2005 would be the peak of their creative mindset. From the crudely drawn comic strips like Teen Girl Squad to the poorly animated cartoons powered by cheat, there were alternative timelines, parodies, puppets. Oh, and oh, it's back. Each character given their own unique personality, tickling our funny bones and stealing our hearts.
If I ever have kids, I can't wait to drop them off at the pudding patch every morning on my way to the dog tracks.
From Homestar to Strong Bad, Coach Z to the Poop Smith, I think I'll always kind of have a soft spot for Homestar.
I'm a song from the 60s.
And while I'm going to explore the importance of these 12 main characters in a future video, it's important to note that these personalities were more than just random acts. Many of them, in fact, inspired by the early life events of Matt and Mike. Not only were they a goof and a gaffe, but they acted as hysterical messengers, discussing the cultural climates of present and past. This wide array of personas that we got to be introduced to would lead them upwards and onwards. Or so it seemed. As we came to the mid-2000s, it was at the height of their popularity that the true expansion into the surreal took place. From holiday specials to live-action bits, you name it, all kinds of crazy dream-come-true stuff that they never thought they could do was happening. With prominence came opportunity. With opportunity came collaborations. For Matt, it was hard to put a cap on what moments held the most weight in their whirlwind career. But one day in 2004 took the cake.
The color of infinity inside.
This so-called experimental film, a personal favorite. In Matt's words, it's okay if no one watches another Homestar Runner cartoon or buys another t-shirt now, because today happened. This moment, the climax of their journey. You think by now, success would have changed them a little bit. But with these two, even the attention of now millions couldn't shake their original charm. One of the most winning aspects of the series is its integrity. The brothers Chaps never pandered to the lowest common denominator, nor did they sell out or overcapitalize on their work. Like Bill Watterson, they made what they thought was funny and were content to let their work speak for itself. But as we began rounding out the first decade in Century 21, the online landscape for which Homestar had pioneered was changing. In recent years, the likes of other video sites like YouTube taking the gaze of new online audience. By 2010, they had accomplished on their own what many with a team could only dream of. But as time changed, so did their situations. This not so much business was at a new crossroads. And it was yet again time to make another big decision. For the better part of a decade, Matt and Mike had dedicated their life to one quirky crew of characters. But now married with children of their own, and it was time to make a critical decision. Up until now, avoiding a lot of the creative company traps that other similar organizations would easily fall prey to. Homestar remained quite viable, built on its sturdy Flash base, but this too wasn't the same. But more important than that, Mike and Matt were going through their own personal evolution. It wasn't about them anymore. They had a family, and with that, a number of internal stresses. We always knew our business model was temporary. With these additions to the equation, this original roller coaster was about to come to an end. Never having really built in any ulterior forms of revenue outside of merch, and not really wanting to subject the audience to in-your-face marketing, they decided they needed to find some other employment. Okay, time for a little break, maybe a month or two. That's good enough. Well, by month 5 and then 6, they began feeling a little weird to say anything about it. It had gotten awkward, and they didn't want to just come out and say, hey, we've got kids, and it's hard. But instead of giving an update, years went by. The once flamboyant characters we got used to seeing on the weekly, now only faded memories of the past. This leaving fans in a constant limbo. Where were they? What happened? And would the brothers Chap ever return? It was on a sunny afternoon in April that after years of silence, we finally had our answer.
You got this, Homestar. This is nothing. Just like falling off a web van. Oh, hello, Deborah, Simone, the internet. I am what you might call Homestar Runner.
They were back.
We've been tiptoeing back into making cartoons. My brother and I were on opposite sides of the country for a while, but now we're in the same room again.
Now working in the entertainment industry on shows such as Yo Gabba Gabba and Gravity Falls, the two brothers decided it was time to come to a place more familiar. Stunned at the reception after their shrouded disappearance, it goes to show how truly grateful Matt and Mike were for everything. Though it never really was the same, everyone was so happy just to have that back in their lives. While others from similar backgrounds have either fallen short or sold out, 20 years on for these two, the passion is as strong as ever.
Thank you for everyone for following us
for some of you 18 years or 15 years or 13 years or 12
In fact,
years.
while the industry has a reputation for changing its creators, on these two it's had quite the opposite effect.
Hey guys. Things aren't going so great for me right now. I've fallen on some hard times.
Still up to their old antics, the days of Flash all but buried 6 feet under. In a lot of ways, the story of Homestar Runner is the story of an internet age gone by. Looking back, it's hard to say if anyone could repeat such a nostalgic rise to relevance. But at the end of the day, the story of Matt and Mike Chapman isn't a story of two workaholics addicted to their animation software. Rather, it's a more relatable one of passion, aspiration, just two guys who dared to dream and had the guts to see it through. And I can't wait to explore the rest of this amazing universe that tells their ongoing story with you. Remember, I'm Ryan with my friend Lanuski, and we'll see you in the next video.